Hello and welcome to ET Government. Today we are at Software Technology Parks of India. As you understand, this STPI was formed way back in 1991 with the mission to promote software industry in India. Now the organization is focusing on taking technology driven projects to the tier 2 cities, and today we are going to talk to the director general of this organization to understand what kind of activity, what kind of work it is doing. So, sir, thank you so much for giving time and for this interview. Let me begin with what are the key focus of STPI right now?
Right now, STPI is focusing on capitalizing on the existing strength and progress that IT industry has achieved so far, and also to disperse the IT industry beyond metro, because the IT industry is mostly concentrated around metro cities, tier one cities. So the idea is to disperse the IT industry, to capitalize the capacity strength of the IT industry, and create an ecosystem, create a kind of environment where we could capitalize and leverage the existing talent that IT industry has and deploy that talent in the
Right.
startup ecosystem that is upcoming.
Right, sir. So, what kind of IT infrastructure right now you have? I mean, how many centers are already existing?
We have got about 59 centers,
Right.
and there are a dozen more which are upcoming.
Okay.
Uh, we have our infrastructure present in each and every state of this country.
Right.
So the idea is that we should be able to present the opportunity and infrastructure to the budding entrepreneurs,
Okay.
to young and youth
Hmm.
of that region, so that they are not required to migrate in the search of the infrastructure.
Right.
So the every center of STPI is typically capable of affording the opportunity infrastructure,
Right.
bandwidth,
Hmm.
plug and play infrastructure,
Right.
so that all sorts of entrepreneurs, smaller and medium,
Hmm.
and the youth and startups,
Right.
they can be hosted and nurtured at each and every STPI center invariably.
Right. So right now you said there are 59 centers which are already working. So what are your future plans? How many centers you want to establish across India? How many square feet you are looking at?
In fact, of late we have started focusing on increasing our presence and infrastructure in eastern part of this country,
Right.
because owing to the vision of Honorable Prime Minister of India, who himself has laid the emphasis on promoting the eastern part of this country.
Right.
And that is why most of the centers that have been opened in during last 4 or 5 years
Right.
are in Bihar, Jharkhand,
Right.
West Bengal,
Odisha.
and Odisha.
Right.
In fact, STPI is now transforming.
Right.
When we started way back in 1989,
Right.
the idea was to create infrastructure and have a kind of regulatory policy in place, single window clearance system in place.
Mhm.
To those entrepreneurs, we were having assured business from their clients
Right.
in US,
Mhm.
and they were looking for a kind of good environment
Right.
and infrastructure and bandwidth.
Right.
Right now, STPI is a kind of transformed organization
Mhm.
which is meeting the today's requirement of
Right.
budding entrepreneur and startups of these times.
Yes.
We know that now internet service is also provided by private players,
Mhm.
and therefore our internet service, bandwidth service, is no more important.
Right.
But that becomes very important in smaller towns and
Right.
mofussil towns of this country,
Right. Right.
because big companies and profit-making companies, they focus on those geographies where they can capitalize a lot of
Right.
things.
Mhm.
Whereas our role is to promote those locations where a lot of investments are not coming.
Right.
So we go there and create a conducive environment,
Right.
and around us, so many things grow over a
Mhm.
period of time.
Right.
And that is why we are dispersed across the country.
Right.
So many initiatives that government has taken, like India BPO promotion scheme, Northeast BPO promotion scheme. We are implementing those scheme in later end spirit, and we have been able to disperse the IT industry in smaller towns and
Right. Right. So you said
facilities.
initially when it was started, the idea was to support the software industry and possibly would have supported companies like Infosys and Wipro. and then now the young age companies are coming, you are supporting them. So can you share some of your experience how actually STPI supported, all those iconic companies like Infosys?
In fact, most of these bigger, larger domestic companies in the field of IT have been supported by STPI.
Right.
Uh, if you have heard of Persistent
System.
Systems, which is headquartered in Pune,
Yes.
they were our first incubator in our STPI premise in Pune.
Wonderful.
And the founder, CEO, Anand Deshpande, had come from US
Right.
and was looking for infrastructure where he could establish his operation, where he can also have bandwidth.
Right.
And then we hosted him in our premise. Most of these big IT majors of India, they have got a lot of support from STPI, Infosys, Wipro, Cognizant, uh, Mindtree,
Right.
HCL and all. So the STPI actually was offering three important services.
Right.
First, our single window clearance system,
Yes.
even till today, is the most flexible and most successful single window clearance system in this country,
Wonderful.
which was created way back in the beginning of 90s.
Okay.
And that worked very well.
Right.
The success of IT industry is the testimony of that single window clearance
Right.
system. Second is that those days, the Videsh Sanchar Nigam Limited had the monopoly on
Right.
internet bandwidth.
Yes.
And the government was very smart enough and they licensed STPI
Right.
and permitted STPI to establish satellite based internet gateways.
Gateways.
And I would commend STPIN of those days that they could establish 24/7 operation.
Right.
And most of these multinational measures, they availed bandwidth from us.
Right.
And so that's how culturally every STPI is typically a network operating center.
Right.
Right now, we are not running satellite-based gateways, but we are well into internet service operation,
Right.
and we are meaningfully delivering those services in smaller towns of this country,
Right.
even till today.
Right.
Third was that those days, the infrastructure was very scarce,
Yes.
and the smaller companies were looking towards us. The STPI center came handy for them. However, the multinationals, they came with a lot of money.
Right.
And that is why the Ministry of Electronics and IT could create an infrastructure service provider scheme, which was leveraged by these companies,
Right.
wherein they were availing, custom excise
Benefits.
duty-free imports, and therefore the most of the IT parks that you find today in major cities of this country
Right.
have been supported by under that scheme.
Right.
So the government, Ministry of Electronics and IT, decided that let us not get into development of huge infrastructure
Right.
ourselves. Let us promote development of huge infrastructure in this country by way of a policy.
Right.
So STP, Software Technology Parks scheme, and thereafter this Internet Infrastructure Service Provider scheme,
Right.
that came into place, and that helped, a lot of private investment in this
Right,
area,
right.
and that is how so many real estate
Right.
companies also ventured into creation of tech parks,
Right. Right.
where these multinational companies started their operation.
Yes, yes. So initially you supported some of the iconic Indian companies and they have grown to a mass level today. So tell us, based on your experience, what has changed today? Has their requirement changed? The competition has changed. What is that they are looking today from STPI?
STPI right now is still providing single window clearance system.
Okay.
Most of the R&D companies where R&D work is happening,
Right.
product is being created,
Yes.
product designing is happening. They prefer to work under STPI regime
Well,
because very flexible.
right.
It's a virtual technology parks scheme where we have very least regulations and supervision.
Right.
That's affords them a kind of environment where they are not presented with any bureaucratic hassle and all.
Right.
So second is that as I said earlier, India has moved up the value chain.
Right.
Now we have about 4.1 million engineers
Absolutely.
working in the IT industry of India across the country, who are not only doing the coding, the development, the designing, the architecture solution,
Right.
but they are also creating products and they are involved in R&D.
Okay.
You will be very happy that India is now home to most of the R&D in the field
Yeah.
of IT, technology sector.
Yes.
And that is why the government of India and state governments at large and the whole ecosystem has geared up to capitalize on the talent that we have right now, the
Right.
experience that those people have right now in terms of product creation.
Right.
And that has led to the startup movement in India.
Yes.
And the Startup India initiative that has been brought by Honorable Prime Minister, Digital India initiative that
Right.
has been brought. These are the initiatives which are triggering
Right.
a lot of activity in the startup
Space.
ecosystem and bringing and leveraging those talent that we have in the IT industry. And that is why looking at the whole thing, STPI is now getting into big way
Okay.
creation of center of excellence.
Wonderful.
So STPI is creating center of excellence 21 in number as of now
Okay.
to capitalize the development of product,
Right.
creation of the products in the emerging areas. So the kind of COEs are coming for leveraging the artificial intelligence technology, Internet of Things,
Right.
machine learning, robotics, data analytics,
Right.
medical electronics,
Right.
automotive electronics, augmented reality and virtual reality.
Right.
All such emerging
Technologies.
areas are being leveraged,
Right.
and our centers of excellence are being created in a collaborative manner.
Okay.
As you know, STPI has a lot of experience in working with the IT industry.
Yes.
And we have a lot of goodwill, we have experience and knowledge, strength, and kind of know-how
Right.
that how the IT industry of India operates and works, what is their work culture. And that is why each and every STPI Center of Excellence invariably works on collaborative framework,
Right.
where STPI is only the bringing the collaborative partners,
Right.
industry veterans, industry association, industries, mentors,
Right.
academic institutions, young guys, youth,
Right.
all sorts of, and investors, all sorts of stakeholders are being together
Right.
on a platform.
So right now it's 21 center of
It's
excellence.
planned 21 Center of Excellence, and this is going to transform and catapult the entire ecosystem in the technology entrepreneurship.
So is there
in
any
times to come.
center right now active, or you have
Yes.
planned 21?
We have Electropreneur Park
Right.
already operating in collaborative manner
Okay.
in South Campus of Delhi University.
Right.
Another Center of Excellence on augmented and virtual reality is being already operated
Right.
in IIT Bhubaneswar,
Okay.
chief mentored by Subrata Bagchi.
Wonderful.
Another Center of Excellence which is kick-started
Right.
is in Chennai.
Okay.
We call it FinTech,
Right.
Financial Technology Center of Excellence. It is being chief mentored by Arun Jain.
Okay.
And the Center of Excellence, automotive electronics and electrical vehicles.
Right,
That Center of Excellence is being chief mentored by Ganesh Natarajan.
Right. So these 21 center of excellence that you're talking about, how soon you'll be able to spread all of them?
They will be eventually put in place in another year.
Another year.
4 we have already done. 18 we have already formed up the collaboration.
Right.
Another 3 are in preparation.
Yes.
So it takes time to bring the
Absolutely,
collaborators, because it's not it's a voluntary
Absolutely.
movement kind of thing, where you bring willing mentors,
Right.
willing industry veterans who
Right.
can mentor the whole operation.
Yes.
See, the whole CO is anybody can create incubator. It's not a
Right.
big deal.
Right.
But the kind of incubator, the center of excellence we are creating is going to work in a very, very professional
So
way.
is there any target in your mind that out of this 21 incubation center, you want to produce this number of a startup, young entrepreneurs?
See, every COE will invariably
Right.
host about 10 to 20 startups
Right.
an year.
Okay.
And going by this rate, success rate in central startup arena is very low.
Yeah, comparatively low.
So the idea is that we could create as many as we could.
Right.
So that is not there is no dearth of, we cannot target a number because we know that there are plenty of people,
Absolutely.
large number of people, large number of youngsters
Right.
who are yet to get those opportunities.
Right.
So we are going to tap as many people as we could.
Yes.
So our benchmark is fixed,
Right.
but our top line is not fixed.
Right.
It can go anywhere,
Right.
any number that we could nurture, we can afford to.
Yes. Earlier, you talked about the BPO promotion scheme, which the minister launched, possibly I think in 2014, and there is so much focus of the Ministry of IT and the Prime Minister to disperse not only the IT center but also the job creation at the tier 2 and tier 3 city level. So, what is the latest data you have? I mean, how many centers have been established, how many seats have been established, and how much job it has created?
So far, as per the latest data, we have been able to establish BPO operation under both the scheme in 120 locations of this country,
Okay.
involving about more than 52,000 seats.
Right.
And right now, the job creation amounts to about 29,000 people.
Okay.
The point is that scheme has just been concluded,
Right.
and this scheme is expected to complete its target in another 3 years.
Okay.
So the number must be growing. It will
Right.
keep on growing over a
Right.
period of time, and at most it can go about 150,000 jobs.
Mhm.
But most importantly, what this scheme has done is that it has created a model. It has created an example as to how the smaller mufassil towns of this country
Mhm.
can be empowered by these schemes,
Right.
where the young boys and girls
Mhm.
can be afforded and presented with the opportunities.
Right.
This scheme is the finest example as to by way of implementing a policy,
Mhm.
policy incentives, you can promote the dispersal of industry
Right.
and arrest the migration that has been happening
Mhm.
for a long time in India.
Right.
The most of the BPO staffers come from Northeast.
Mhm.
Our smaller town young boys and girls, they visit and start operating from Gurgaon for the
Right.
same amount of money.
Yes.
So there was no point in
Coming to Gurgaon.
Gurgaon for such amount of money if we could afford this kind of opportunity.
Right.
And that is how this scheme has now triggered a process.
Mhm.
And that is why I say that this is a kind of traction
Right.
that is happening, and it will keep on now growing and create a multiplier
Right.
effect
Effect.
on the ground.
So you have 120. You have reached out to
New
120
cities.
new
New
cities.
cities.
So these 120 new cities. What is the differential level in terms of the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3? Most of them are in tier 2 or tier 1 cities.
Most of them are in tier 2 and tier 3 cities.
Okay.
But the share of tier 3 cities
Hmm.
in the whole BPO scheme is larger.
Okay.
Because, Latur, Badgam,
Right.
smaller names in Maharashtra, in Jammu and Kashmir,
Right.
UP, Bihar, Muzaffarpur,
Yes.
Madhya Pradesh, Vidisha, all such cities
Hmm.
are now on the IT map of India
Right.
because of this scheme.
Hmm.
So this scheme is very simple because it incentivizes
Hmm.
the operation of the same company in a smaller town.
Right.
If you start doing new work in a smaller town, you are entitled for our incentives.
Right.
If you participate in our scheme as per the laid down process.
Right. Right.
So this has really done wonders.
So, what kind of companies have invested in this scheme? I mean, what kind of companies have shown? Are they those companies like TCS and all, which are already big, present in large part of India, or do you see some new companies also?
Smaller companies.
Okay.
Smaller companies are the largest beneficiary of this scheme
Okay.
because the average amount of operation, average number of people employed
Hmm.
in these schemes are 100 to 200.
Right.
So these are the smaller companies.
Hmm.
They have been benefited from the scheme the most.
Right.
But this scheme is being even looked at by bigger companies also,
Hmm.
because the BPO sector is the is a little stressed sector
Right.
because of merger and acquisition in the telecom
Absolutely.
sector, shortening of operation and all. So this scheme, the incentives under this scheme had has come to help
Right.
them in cutting the cost and
Right.
leveraging the government incentives to maintain their
Right.
cost arbitrage and all, invest
Absolutely.
in soft skill training.
Right.
So basically, it's a kind of mix
Yes.
takers of this
Right.
scheme.
You also have a similar scheme primarily working for the northeastern region. I mean, there are 8 states in northeast, including Assam, Arunachal, Shillong, all those places. So, in most of the BPOs and chat process, you see people from the northeastern region working. So, how this scheme is spread in those 8 states, and what have been the response of the people from there?
So initially, response was quite exciting in Nagaland, Kohima,
Right.
but uh, we are still, working to promote this scheme in the northeast.
Hmm.
Whereas the India BPO promotion scheme, which was meant for all those states other
Right.
than northeast, has already met its target
Hmm.
seats. Any northeast BPO scheme has not been able to meet
Okay.
for many reasons.
Hmm.
But it's a cultural change.
Absolutely.
The point is that the industry mindset has to be changed.
Hmm.
They have to be educated,
Right.
and they will have to be told that the kind of ecosystem, the kind of environment that any offers
Hmm.
doesn't come into way of their operations.
Right.
So slowly the confidence is building,
Hmm.
and I'm sure that in times to come we'll be able to meet our expectation from
Other
this
than the
scheme also.
confidence issue, do you see any ground level challenge in the northeastern region?
The point is that northeast region we have a lot of talent.
Yes.
Their pronunciation in English and all has been better than the
Right.
northern part of
Other
this
part
country.
of the country. Yeah.
Uh, the talent we have in some of the states we have infrastructure.
Right.
There are cultural issues like traditionally the industry finds it a little difficult. They feel that they will face some difficulty on the ground. These are some cultural barriers that has to be
Right.
crossed,
Right.
for which we are working.
Okay. Now coming back to the STPI, how the organization is, how much space that you have created, what is the utilization level, and how profitable you are, how you are placed, how is your book?
In fact, STPI is self-reliant organization.
Right.
We don't take even a single penny from
Government.
the government for our operations.
Right.
Uh, STPI has been nurtured by its founders and later on its leaders
Right.
to maintain its self-reliance. So, on one hand, we implement the government policies,
Right.
the schemes. Other hand, we are very conscious in terms of keeping us self-reliant financially.
Right.
So our internet service operation, our consultancy work to the government, our STP scheme, all such things are designed and managed in such a manner that we are able to generate revenues.
Right.
We are having about 8 lakhs square feet of space right now. Another 10 lakhs we are adding.
Okay.
And entire expenditure that are getting into creation of this infrastructure is met from our internal accruals.
Okay.
And what we are trying to do is that we are creating data centers, we are creating incubators.
Right.
So on one hand, we are meeting and fulfilling the mandate of STPI
Right.
to promote creation of infrastructure, creation of center of excellence, primarily to promote the startups,
Right.
to capitalize and leverage the emerging technologies, to create fab labs, smart labs, electropreneur park, internet operation to promote smaller towns and of this country. Other hand, all these operations that we do helps us in generating a revenue.
Right.
What we do is that we generate revenue and reinvest that revenue into the promotion.
Right. Right.
So that has been our
Right.
Basically the theme of.
Yes.
So
You mentioned about the data center. I mean, that brings me to a very important question. I mean, right now the country is debating about data localization. I mean, the RBI has already mandated the banks to have the data here in India. So, what is your view on data localization? Because there are companies, especially the multinational companies, they are actually little reluctant to adopt this policy. So, what is your view? the data should be in India? What do you think?
Of course, the data localization, data sovereignty is very important for any nation.
Absolutely.
And you will be very happy to know that India has already taken initiative to create this kind of law in this country to protect the data sovereignty and privacy of the personal data. Another aspect is that how do we create a kind of law and rules so that our IT industry, which processes personal data,
Right.
is not affected. And this draft law that is being created has taken care of that.
Okay.
You know, in a way, this law would help the IT industry of India
Right.
to stay afloat. I mean, keep it's going, because most of the European countries,
Right.
they have already created a law,
GDPR. Right.
and then this law mandates the reciprocity. So the host country where the IT industry has to process their citizens' data
Right.
has to have strong laws. So in a way, it's must
Right.
both to keep our country independent and sovereign in terms of data privacy,
Right.
to capitalize on the data which is being seen as a next treasure.
Right.
Basically, it's very important. Other hand, we have to keep ourselves in basically in real time. We have to keep ourselves ready
Ready.
to create those laws and rules which are happening all across the world. So data privacy and citizens data this sovereignty
Right.
is very important. Most of the countries of the world are focusing on that. China has already done, US has already done.
Right.
So we have to do it in any case.
Absolutely.
And so data center, business in India is going to grow because of this data localization.
Right.
Because most of these foreign companies and domestic companies, they will have to keep data belonging to our citizens within this
Right.
geographical national territory.
Some of the companies are already using your infrastructure to host the data. I mean, data center.
Basically, we have data center in Mohali,
Right.
Chennai, Bangalore,
Right.
Bhubaneswar. Now it is coming up in Calcutta. And most importantly, each and STPI center is a tier 2 data center
Right.
already. But we are creating tier 3 and tier 4 data center. Right?
Right. Wonderful.
So we were the organization which used to provide the data center and co-location facilities for these bigger companies of this
Right.
multinational companies.
Yes.
In Bangalore, Chennai, Hyderabad, Pune and all. So we have been into this.
Right.
We are evolving over a period of time, continuously.
Right.
Right now our data center are tier 4.
Wonderful.
New data center are
Right.
tier 4.
Couple of days back we had the economic policy, and yesterday there was a budget, and both economic policy as well as the budget, they focus on the training parts on the emerging technology like artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, virtual reality and all. So what is your sense of these emerging technology, and and in what direction you see budget 2019?
It's very important because you look at the focus that government has laid on the promotion of startup.
Right.
So now there will be a TV channel for bringing all the startups on a platform and give them platform so that people. So this is very important. Then the ambiguity in angel tax has been removed, and then a lot of promotional measures have been put in place.
Right.
A lot of policies have been being created to promote the investment in these startups, so that a lot of funding agencies
Right.
and funds of the entire world, they could come and work with our startup. So these things are very important. Apart from that, the government has already taken initiatives like to promote the artificial intelligence, adoption of artificial intelligence across the government and the businesses. As I said, our center of excellence, they are almost around each and every emerging technology.
Right.
These center of excellence are essentially a kind of platform where startups will be mostly benefited
Right.
from the ecosystem and stakeholders that we bring on the table.
Right.
So many agencies of the government are working. So, and economic survey, as you know, that they have already said indicated in the report that these are the areas, emerging areas, has to be
Exactly.
capitalized.
Absolutely.
And therefore, the just after a few days after release of economic survey, and the whole focus of the government already towards capitalizing on the emerging technology.
Technologies.
It's very timely, and everything is in getting in place.
Right,
And I am sure that the whole ecosystem is getting created.
right.
And you know that startup policy is also in
Right,
place
absolutely.
because it's a single window clearance system.
Yes.
So I think we are geared up, and from the point of view of infrastructure creation, um, policy creation, incentives from the government, and whole market that we have right now.
Right.
So this is an ideal time, good time for startups to prosper in the technology product
Dr.
creation.
Rai, thank you so much for your time. Wonderful talking to you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.